So you guys, for this week's packet and for the next couple of packets, will have a lot of stuff to do with the Civil War for your social studies, but it also has a lot to do with your reading skills. So every single sheet that you'll get that gives you information has a couple of paragraphs and then some questions at the end that you guys need to write the answers to. So I wanted to go over a couple of things that you guys can do to make sure that you're getting the information that you need to answer those questions. And just like when we're taking a test, the first thing you want to do is read the title of the article or whatever, the story, poem, anything that you're reading. So we know here that this is the Civil War. That's exactly what we are reading about. Now that we've read that, before we read the story or this article, what I want to do is I want to go down here and look at the questions, because that's going to determine the important information that I should be getting from the article. So our first question is, what is the Civil War? So I know for a fact, based off the title and based off this one question, that I'm going to be looking for information about the Civil War, what caused it, because there's that keyword, what. What is it? What caused it? And my second question is, why did many people think the war would be over quickly? So I'm going to be looking for why people thought the war would end quickly. So I'm going to look for words like quickly in there. And I'm going to look for words like over, because I'm not just looking for information about the start of the war, but also why people thought it was going to be done so quickly. So I'm going to go back up here and I will start reading it. Now, what I'm going to be doing is, while I'm reading, I'm going to be thinking about that first question, what is the Civil War? And the second question, why did people think it would end so quickly? And highlighting information based off of those questions. So a civil war is a war between two groups of people in the same country. Right off the bat, a civil war is. And there we go. I've highlighted that. Let's keep going. The American Civil War was a war between northern states and the southern states. People sometimes call the Civil War a war between brothers. The Civil War is the only time in history that the United States was divided and fought against itself. It was the deadliest war in the history of our country. The rest of that information in that sentence, in that paragraph, is really important, but I know that I have two questions that I need to answer, and that's the important information I'm looking for, the information based off of those questions. And the first sentence gave me that answer directly. So I'm going to keep going and see if I can find the answer to the second question. The North was called the Union, or Yankees. The South was called the Confederacy, or Rebels. There were several reasons war broke out, including states' rights and slavery. The Southern states strongly believed in states' rights, where each state gets to make its own laws. They decided that they would become their own nation. The North believed that the country needed to stick together as one unit. The North and South disagreed on how powerful the federal government really should be. So I haven't got there yet, because if you remember that second question, you can always look back at your questions is, why did people think the Civil War would be over quickly? So we're going to go on to that third paragraph. Everyone in the North thought the war would only last a few months, since there were 24 states versus 11 states. So last a few months. It doesn't say quickly, but I know that from inferring that last a few months is just, that's quick for what they thought. So there was 24 states versus 11 states. At the start of the war, the North seemed to be the strong ones, with factories to make their weapons and their supplies. The Union troops were also twice the size of the South, but they didn't seem to stop the South. Robert E. Lee was a sneaky and powerful general that outsmarted and won many battles for the South. So not only was it 24 states versus 11 states, but the North seemed to be strong, and they had factories to make their weapons and their supplies, and were also twice the size of the South. So they had more states, were bigger, and had the supplies. In the end, the North was victorious, with General Grant defeating General Lee. The nation had survived through the worst period in the history, and states were united once again. So what we're going to do now is answer our questions. So what is a civil war? Let's go back up to our first highlighted spot. A civil war is a war between two groups of people in the same country. And I don't have to go look anywhere for that because I know exactly where it is that I highlighted it. A war between, go back up and check one more time just to make sure we are getting the wording correct, between two groups of people in the same country. And then we've answered that and we know it's correct because it literally says right there. And then let's go to our second question. Why did people think the war would be over quickly? And this one is a little bit more in depth. We highlighted much more. So first, the North thought it would finish. So there was 24 states versus 11 states. So that's the first thing that we can write. The North had many more states, 24 verse 11. Look, there was more details that we can add. The North seemed to be strong because they had factories and weapons that could make their weapons and supplies. And then there was one last thing that we need to look at. If you can see it still, it says also twice the size of the South. So that is the last thing that we would add to that. So that is how you guys will finish the rest of your papers. Make sure that you are looking at the questions, and that's going to determine what you guys highlight in your text. And when you're highlighting that important information, you don't have to go back and search the entire text for those answers. All right, I hope you guys are doing great. Remember to turn in your packets at the school.